what's up, my friend? Do you love God, business, family, and capitalism? If so, you're in the right place. Welcome to the War Plan Briefing. I want to tell you a story. If you don't know me, my name's Josh. I have a master's degree in pain and a bachelor's degree in suffering. And if you have a small company, maybe you have that too. I don't know. It's not an easy road. At least it wasn't for me. And in this video, I'm going to share 5 things that bankruptcy taught me. Yes, it's true. Something I was ashamed of for a very long time. But let's go back to my early 20s. I was a pizza delivery driver. I had just married my high school sweetheart, and we bought this super dope condominium. See what I did there? Condominium. It's a trailer. It's a mobile home. It came with a vehicle title. Okay, my house had a title. It was nice. I had a real fireplace. Thank God no sparks hit anything because it would have burned down in about 7 minutes. But we were happy there and things were good. The problem is that I bought this condominium when I was 19 years old. And because of a combination of bravado and youthful ignorance, I didn't listen to anybody that gave me advice. I had countless adults, mentors, people in my life say, Josh, don't buy a condominium. Just wait another year or two and get something else. But I was fiercely independent. I wanted to do my own thing. So I go into the mobile home sales park or whatever, and I talk to this slick sales guy. And, I understand sales now, but back then I had no idea what this guy was doing to me. Turns out he actually broke the law and he sold me a $35,000 to $40,000 trailer for $62,000. I come to find out years later, that you can't do that. You can only mark up these mobile homes a certain percentage above the MSRP, but he saw me coming a mile away. I was proud of myself for buying it because I didn't need a cosigner. I already had 700 credit. I had the cash for the down payment, and I got a mortgage on this vehicle house called a mobile home. And everything was fine for a few years, but then when my wife and I were wanting to get a regular real house, we couldn't because the thing was only worth $35,000. I still owed about $57,000 on it. And at the time, that felt like an insurmountable pit that I was trying to dig out of. And it wasn't, but it was to me. It felt like the weight of the world. Sometimes we tell our kids it's not Mount Everest. And what that means is the obstacle in front of you feels like the weight of the world, but it's really not. It just feels like it to you because your capacity isn't strong enough yet. I had no capacity. I didn't know anything. And at the advice of an attorney, he said, oh, you're young, file bankruptcy, you can just get out of the trailer. I said, well, that sounds cool. What's that? How does that work? He said, stop paying your bills for 6 months and then give me a call. So I stopped paying the bills, even though I could afford to, just to show that I couldn't. And I followed this attorney, and the whole process, honestly, just filled me with shame and regret. And it was a terrible thing to do, but it's true. And it happened. And there's some lessons I learned there that I think can help you in your business. Let's get into it. The first thing that filing bankruptcy taught me was that it's good, useful, beneficial, and preferable to bet on yourself. Once you understand that Joe Biden isn't coming to save your day and Donald Trump ain't coming to hand feed you your dinner, okay, it sets you free, okay? Betting on yourself is something that's terrifying when you don't have a lot of evidence to support that bet. But what happens is you start to build evidence by taking risks, intelligent risk, and doing things and taking actions. I didn't have the self-confidence to figure out how to reverse engineer a plan out of my negative equity of my trailer. And maybe you feel like that. Maybe you have credit card debt. Maybe you have a bunch of extraneous circumstances that make it feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. And I acknowledge and validate that feeling, but you got to understand, you're capable of far more than you realize. How much more do you know now than you did when you were 16? How much more capable are you now than when you were 22? And if it's true that you're more capable and intelligent now, is it reasonable to think over the next year or 2 or 3 years that trend will continue? Well, it depends if you're going to bet on yourself, if you're going to read, if you're going to learn, if you're going to up-level your skill sets and your mindsets and your network. But if that is true about you and you want those types of things, it's a good bet to bet on yourself. I don't think there's anything else that provides a bigger return on investment than betting on yourself. That's what I should have done when I filed bankruptcy that I know now. But lessons learned, you live and you grow. The second lesson I learned by filing bankruptcy was I needed to think bigger. I didn't understand that I was thinking small, but I was thinking very, very small. And that's why this is tricky. Maybe you don't know that you're thinking small, but you really are. That's the thing about not knowing is you don't know it, right? So let me ask you this. How big are you thinking? What do you think you're capable of, really? I talk with small business owners and I'll ask them, all right, so you got a $300,000 little family business. It's cool. Well, what do you want to do this year? Well, with a little luck and an extra stimulus check, I think we can grow by 10%, Josh. I think we can hit 330,000. I'm like, wow, really? Okay. Well, what if we hit 611,000? What if we hit 820,000? And when I bring up things like that, oftentimes people go into a panic. They literally get panicked. They're like, what? I can't do it. It's impossible. And I'm like, calm down. Doesn't mean that it will happen, and there's no harm in having a conversation about it. So the challenge to you is, are you thinking big enough? And one clue to find out if you are is to set an insane goal, or what feels like an insane goal to you, just to see what it feels like to look at it. Just to reverse engineer what would need to be true for that goal to happen, and just see how comfortable comfortable you are just experimenting with it. If you've never made a ton of money, figure out what would life be like if you made $100,000 a month in personal income. And you're like, what? That's impossible. That's just from scammers on the internet. It's like, no, it's not. Like, I know a lot of people personally that make $100,000 a week or more in personal income. It's not easy, but it's possible. Sketch out what that would look like. How big would your company have to be? How much staff would you need? Doing these types of exercise will help train you to think bigger, because sometimes we set our goals based on what everyone else is doing versus setting goals based on what you're capable of. You're capable of more than you think. The third thing I learned by filing bankruptcy in my early 20s as a pizza delivery driver was that it is not Mount Everest. And I just talked about this, but think about it like this. How heavy something feels to you isn't how heavy that thing actually is. And I'll say that slow because that's weird. How heavy something feels to you is not indicative of how heavy that thing actually is. Do you think that if Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime did a bench press of 300 pounds, and I did a bench press of 300 pounds, you think I would feel the same weight that he did? The answer is no. And the reason why is because he has greater capacity than I do. One of my favorite quotes is, heavy is the head that wears the crown. And what that means is, if you're going to be a leader and a movement maker and a job creator and a world changer, if you're going to do that, you got to have a strong neck. You don't want to be praying that everything gets easier. You want to pray that you get stronger. The goal, the game, is increasing your capacity. There's things that 15 years ago would have crippled and paralyzed me in terms of circumstance and things going wrong, that today is like a Tuesday afternoon that just rolls off my back like water on a duck, right? And that's true with you too. So the game is, like we said, thinking bigger, but it's also realizing whatever you're struggling with, whatever lion you're about to face, is not Mount Everest, even if it feels like it. And the fourth tip is that if nothing changes, nothing changes. It's useful to consume content like this. It's valuable to learn things and to read, but if nothing changes, nothing changes. If you're a perpetual consumer of information and you're lacking in the execution department, nothing's going to change. You can know everything required for success and still be a failure. Knowing isn't the same thing as doing. I love how Myron Golden teaches it the best. He says that knowledge is the accumulation of truth and wisdom is the application of truth. So here's my challenging question for you. Are you applying the stuff you already know? Are you perpetually learning new cool things so that you can feel smart inside your own head in an effort to avoid the risk of executing? Because look, you're only going to build your capacity. You're only going to be able to think bigger if you start taking little steps on that path. And I want that for you. If nothing changes, nothing changes. What are you changing? What have you changed? And what are you about to change? Not what are you going to try, but what are you going to do? Not what you're going to test out, but what you're going to commit to. What are you willing to suffer for that is different from what you've done in the past, which will yield a different outcome for you. And last but not least, tip number five, thing that I learned from filing bankruptcy as a pizza guy in my early 20s was the importance and power of humility. One of my mentors was Russell Brunson, and Russell's teaching and mentorship changed my life. Years ago, I signed up for one of his high ticket things, and he mentored me personally, and he helped fix one of my companies. Maybe I'll make a video on that in the future, in a big, big way. And he told me a story that he was looking for a mentor at the time. And there's this guy that he wanted to mentor him, but that guy would only work with entrepreneurs who had cycled. Okay, he would only work with Russell if Russell had cycled. Now, Russell had cycled. Let me explain what cycling is. Cycling is when you've made millions of dollars, you've lost everything. Your friends abandon you, people get weird around you, you feel like crap, and then you do it again. There's a beauty in cycling. There's a beauty in humility. And the bankruptcy situation for me, it taught me how to have compassion, how to understand there's nuance in everybody's situation. It helped me understand that I was not the golden child with the golden hand, that everything I touched just would magically work. It helped me have a healthy level of productive paranoia. It helped change my behavior. It up-leveled me in all areas of life. So your setback that maybe you just had or are having right now, your setback can become your setup, right? Your mess can become your message. And to be even extra cheesy, your test can become your testimony. These things are really true. Don't be scared of adversity. Don't be scared of failure. Don't be ashamed of your past failures, because they've shaped you into who you are, and they're setting the table for the success that you're going to have in the future. Look, I hope that my vulnerability has been helpful for you. I hope that it's useful for you. And most importantly, I hope that you do something about it. I hope that you like, share, subscribe. I hope that you comment on this video, call your shot. Let me know where you're from, what you're going to do, and let me know what you want me to make videos on in the future. Until next time, we'll see you.